Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my clerkship series where I talk all about the medical school rotations that I go on. And in this video, I'm going to talk all about the gynecologic oncology rotation that I just finished. If you guys haven't seen it yet, make sure to check out my last video talking about my psychiatry rotation. I was a little bit late on filming everything, so I'm putting these videos up pretty close to each other. So now with this video up, I should be back on track. Anyway, like I said, I just finished my gyne-onc rotation and it was a lot different than I was anticipating. So basically my schedule initially told me that this was going to be my OB/GYN rotation. And so I was expecting something like, being in the women's clinic or something like that. I wasn't expecting to be assigned with the gyne-onc surgeon and end up having a surgery rotation for 2 weeks. So that caught me off guard, but honestly, it was really, really cool. So like I said, overall, this was a surgery rotation. And so I've already done one before this, which was plastic surgery. So there isn't gonna be as much to talk about in terms of like the novel experience of surgery. So I think what I wanna do with this video is talk a little bit more about the realities of medical school rotations and things that kind of happen that you don't necessarily expect, as well as kind of the lifestyle around the rotation, because even though this was a busy rotation being a surgical subspecialty, I did try to make some lifestyle changes throughout the rotation because I wanted to develop better habits. For example, during this rotation, I have been the most consistent with my gym routine than I have been since before I took step one. I basically told myself that if I can commit to going to the gym consistently during a surgical rotation, then I should have no excuse for being consistent about my gym habits during any other rotation. Another good habit that I started during this rotation was starting to listen to book summaries on short form, which has been really, really nice between all the driving to the 2 different hospitals that we were operating at, as well as the clinic, and then going to the gym for anywhere from like 1.5 to 2 hours per day. I've been able to get through, a couple books on short form. I'm currently halfway through Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. If you guys want to check out short form, you can get a 5-day free trial and 20% off the annual subscription using shortform.com/Shaun. This video isn't sponsored by them, but I am affiliated with them, so I do get a little bit of a kickback, so it helps me out as well as the channel. And in general, I think it's just a really awesome resource, and it's just kind of contributed to the good habits that I've really been trying to work on during this rotation that I haven't been good about during my previous rotations. Anyway, let's rewind a little bit and talk about the day-to-day of the gyne-onc surgery rotation. So my schedule was not very clear during this rotation because, again, it's a surgery one. So I was basically having to go in whenever there were surgeries scheduled, which could be at 7 a.m., they could be at 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 5 p.m. even, and then there were 2 days per week on Mondays and Wednesdays where we would spend 2 hours each of those days in clinic. And clinic is basically where the surgeon sees any follow-ups on patients that he's operated on before, as well as any new patients that have been referred to him. So this rotation was overall very fast-paced and dynamic. There were days where we would start off by having a surgery scheduled at like 7 a.m. at one hospital, and then we'd have to go to clinic for a couple hours, and then after clinic, we'd have to drive to another hospital for more cases that are scheduled that day. And this surgeon was overall available like 24/7, which means that he was having people added to his surgery schedule pretty much every single day or like the day before they were gonna be operated on. So a lot of times I didn't really know the schedule until like the night before when the residents would text me. This made it a very different experience compared to other rotations like my psychiatry rotation, where it was the same schedule every single day. I knew exactly when I was gonna show up. I knew roughly what time I was gonna leave. And this one, I had no concept of time. I had no concept of how much free time I was gonna have. When was I gonna go to the gym that day? When was I gonna get studying done that day? I had no idea. And this brings me to the first point that I wanted to make about the reality of med school rotations that some people don't really kind of think about or realize. So my first day of the rotation, I thought I was going to be going to the clinic at 11:45. I texted the residents the night before and I asked, hey guys, I'm the new medical student, excited to get started, where should I show up tomorrow, what time? And, basically they were like, oh yeah, just meet us at the clinic at 11:45 and, we'll meet you there. Fast forward to the following morning, which is the first day of the rotation. I just happened to wake up at like 7:15. I think one of the pups woke me up and I checked my phone and literally right then one of the residents texts saying Dr. So-and-so scheduled a last minute surgery for 8 a.m. Literally in 45 minutes, there was gonna be a surgery all the way at the hospital, which means I would have to get up, drive down there, change into scrubs, and basically scrub in. Not to mention, I haven't fed the dogs yet, eaten breakfast, showered, done any sort of getting ready, and I was like still like rubbing the crust out of my eyes. At this point, two things ran through my head. I was like, one, I could totally play ignorance and say that I was asleep, you know? I was told 11:45, my alarm was set for 9, didn't see the text, right? Like I could have done that. But my conscience did not let me do that. I was like, I saw the text, you know, I'm here to learn, I'm a medical student, I, you know, need to get as much exposure as possible. I should go, I should get ready right now. So I chose the latter option and I texted them back saying, all right, I might be a little bit late, but I'm on my way. I ended up not being late. I was in the OR by 8 and we were all scrubbed in by 8:15. And that was like the first time that I was meeting the residents, and the attending was literally right there in the OR, not before that, not like in a clinic somewhere, not while rounding on patients or anything, like literally meeting all of them for the first time in the operating room. So I told a couple of people about this, and some of the responses that I got were, oh, like that's not fair. How can they expect you to just show up like on a whim last minute? You know, you're just the medical student. Why are you expected to do this? And what I say to this is that, you know, as medical students, we're here for this experience. You know, we're gonna become doctors one day, right? Very soon, within the next 2 years. And as doctors, there's gonna be emergencies. There's gonna be last minute patients added to the surgery schedule. There's gonna be things that we don't expect, and we're gonna have to hop out of bed and drive to the hospital. You know, we're gonna be on call, right? These things are gonna happen. And so it's kind of just good, you know, in my eyes, it's good to just get used to this. You know, this is the life we chose. If the residents and the surgeon are gonna do a last minute surgery at, you know, 8 in the morning in 45 minutes, then so am I. I'm gonna show up. This is an experience. This is what I'm here for. I'm here to learn. I'm here to get the experience. I'm not gonna be like, oh wow, like let me complain about this, right? Like no, like I'm here to learn. This is the experience I'm getting. And honestly, like I was pretty stoked when I got there and we finished the case. I was like, all right, this is like a strong start to the rotation. It made it pretty exciting. The second reality that I wanted to bring up is that sometimes things happen to you that you cannot control during rotations. So while I was on this rotation, I went out to sushi with a couple friends on Friday night, so like halfway through the rotation. And the next morning, I was so sick. I got food poisoning, I was vomiting, I had abdominal cramping, literally everything food poisoning, like that's what I had. It was absolutely terrible. I was literally in bed for all of Saturday and Sunday. And luckily we didn't have any surgery scheduled those days, but I didn't get out of bed the entire time. I couldn't tolerate liquids or food. I basically did not eat that entire weekend except for Sunday night. I had a single smoothie. And then Monday we had clinic and cases all the way until 7 p.m. And I didn't have my first meal until after we were done with cases that Monday night at 7 p.m., which means that over 72 hours, all I had was a single smoothie. And I still spent the entire day, you know, scrubbed into cases and going to clinic and all that kind of stuff. Now, I probably could have emailed the dean and said, hey, I'm sick with food poisoning, I don't feel well at all. But honestly, by the time Monday came around, I felt fine. I just felt like my appetite wasn't completely there yet, but I didn't feel like I was sick or anything. I was gonna throw up. My stomach wasn't hurting anymore. I felt fine to go in. I still went in because I still wanted a learning experience. And plus, I didn't know if I was even gonna get a response back if I had emailed the dean or anything Sunday night. So I just kind of didn't want to risk it. So admittedly, you probably could tell someone if you're sick like that, and you should. But in this particular case, I did not. And again, these are kind of the decisions you have to make while you're a medical student, because again, life does not stop just because we're in medical school. Things happen and you get sick or you have life events, and you have to figure all those things out while also trying to figure out how to be a good medical student. So a lot of learning experiences during this rotation. Another thing, like I said, I was being very consistent about the gym. This was the most consistent I've been. Besides the 3 days that I was really sick from the food poisoning, I went to the gym every single day. I think I ran several 5Ks, at least 3 or 4 of them. I was lifting, I was getting cardio in, I felt really good. I was coming home from like the surgeries and I was like studying. I was actually studying and doing practice questions and Anki and keeping up with that. that. And again, I just really wanted to challenge myself with this rotation to develop good habits and maintain those habits, because I just feel that if you can do it during a surgical rotation, then you can do it during other rotations, which, you know, I'm now about to start my next psychiatry rotation. And then after this, I have my peds rotation. And then after that, I have a month of surgery, which is gonna be emergency general surgery and trauma ICU. So I wanted to develop these habits now because I want to maintain them during this next month while I'm not in surgery. And then hopefully I can have them locked in, you know, during a month of surgery. And I've listened to the entire short form summary of Atomic Habits, which has kind of like really motivated me to kind of change these things now, because if not now, then, you know, I'm not gonna be able to do it later, right? So yeah, that was a big inspiration during this rotation. In terms of the rotation itself, again, this was gyne-onc. You can imagine kind of what some of those pathologies are, you know, a lot of cancers of the female reproductive organs. You know, we did a lot of hysterectomies. It was really, really different from plastics, where we're doing a lot of like flaps, a lot of grafts. And, you know, some of these procedures were very laparoscopic. There wasn't as much for me to do because in plastics, you know, you have a lot of things you can put your hands on, you know, in terms of like some of these big like flaps that you're taking, and there's a lot of suturing to do. But then in this rotation, you know, you're very limited to a certain area of the body, and, you know, there's not a lot you really can do. You know, if you're doing like a laparoscopic, you know, hysterectomy, then there's not a lot of suturing to do because there's literally like, you know, 3 holes, and there was 2 residents, so a lot of the focus was making sure that the residents were getting hands-on experience. So I didn't really have as much to do. Luckily, since this was my second surgery rotation, I was a lot more comfortable in the OR in terms of scrubbing in and, you know, kind of knowing the flow of everything. And I basically just kind of helped out by introducing myself to the patient beforehand, waiting for them to be brought back to the operating room, and then I would text the residents saying that the patient's, you know, moving back, and, you know, they'd be charting, so they really, you know, found that helpful, so they didn't have to like be watching, you know, the patient or checking in to make sure that the patient has gone back. They would just wait for me to text them, and they could just focus on their charting. And then I'd help set the patient up, get them all ready to go, and then after the surgery was done, I would kind of hang out, kind of help transfer the patient back to, you know, their bed, and then bring them back to the PACU, which is the post anesthesia care unit. And so that was kind of like it for my role. And then clinic, it was just a lot of shadowing, which again, you get to learn a lot. There was just a little bit less for me to do. It was just a very niche rotation, but I did overall very enjoy it. Also, something I forgot to mention is that if you guys have been following my channel since I was a scribe, I used to scribe for an oncologist. And so this doctor that I worked with was actually the gyne-onc that we would pretty much refer all of those patients to that needed gyne-onc. And so it was cool to kind of see the other side of cancer care from the surgical perspective, because when it comes to cancer care, you think about the surgical oncologist, the medical oncologist, and the radiation oncologist. And so it really was cool to see the surgery side of things, you know, coming from a background with medical oncology, and seeing, you know, a physician that we used to kind of like, you know, consult with on our patients. And it just kind of allowed me to kind of see the different pieces of the puzzle, you know, and that's what these rotations are pretty much all about. So overall, is this something I could see myself doing? I'm not very sure. I kind of use this rotation more to see like, do I see myself doing surgery? And I think after this rotation, I'm honestly still not sure. I don't know how much I like the operating room. It's still very novel to me. And I'm going to explore that a little bit more, you know, when I have my month of surgery at the end of next month. And so I'll be able to update you guys a little bit more about that later, but I did very much enjoy this rotation. Anyway, this video is getting very rambly, so I'm gonna end it here, but I start my next rotation tomorrow, which is my second psychiatry rotation. And since I just put out a video about my first psychiatry rotation, what I'm gonna do with this one is try vlogging and try to see if I can handle vlogging while being a rotating third-year medical student. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.